Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to introduce myself very briefly. I'm Stephanie. I'm AMO's content specialist. So I create blog posts, I coordinate our newsletters, I write our emails, some of them. So I just want to thank you guys all for taking time out of your day. We are being joined by Dr. Waqas Nawaz. He is going to discuss a little bit about the 2021 match.
Good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Would you like to, introduce yourself briefly and kind of just let everybody who's tuning in know a little bit about your background and why you're a really good source for match information?
Sure, why not? First of all, thank you very much, Stephanie and AMOpportunities for arranging this session. My name is Dr. Waqas Nawaz, and I'm one of the IMGs now currently working as assistant professor in gastroenterology in Ohio State. So briefly about my career, that I actually graduated from King Edward Medical College, Pakistan in 2010, and then I did my MLE exams and 1-year internship and came in USA in 2012. I did 5-month rotation, and when I came in, I was only having step 1, and then I did like step 2, step 3, CS, all during the 5-6 months when I was doing rotation in a small community hospital here. And then I applied match in 2013. I did my residency from Montefiore, New York, and I did 1 year of hospitalist medicine attending in Geisinger, Pennsylvania in 2017. Then I matched in gastroenterology in my own program where I did residency from, and then I graduated from there in 2020, and now currently I'm working as assistant professor clinical in Ohio State University. So that's a nutshell of the career, and otherwise, as a person, basically I do a lot of career counseling as my hobby. I write some stuff and do some kind of fundraising. So this is all about my profile.
Thanks. It sounds like you've accomplished a lot, in a short span of time. And I'm sure that everybody who's tuning in kind of wants to know how they can achieve similar things. It looks like we have a lot of people from Pakistan, from Egypt. We have people from India, some people tuning in from Chicago, Colombia, Iran. So just a really diverse group. Right now, you also are kind of a leader and oversee a forum dedicated to helping IMGs with USMLE preparation. Do you want to kind of share a little bit about that and maybe talk about how if people are interested in joining, they might be able to take advantage of that?
Oh, sure. So the forum you are mentioning is called King Edward Medical College USMLE Forum. So when we matched in residency in 2013, we were not having resources then. Social media was not as active. Instagram was not as active. So we were a group of 6 friends, and we really had to come across hardships while finding, observerships. What is the best way? What are the programs where we should apply? Interview preparation, all these kind of stuff. So then one of our friend, his name is Farooq, and he designed this forum, and we all joined, and then we started guiding all our graduates. And initially it was only for Pakistan, actually for only our college graduates, and then we opened it up for all country, and then later on we opened it up for almost the entire world wherever we get a request. So it's an online forum on Facebook. There is no membership fees, only doctors can join. So what we have been doing for the last 8 years, we have been writing a lot of blogs about all kind of stuff related to MLE, all the preparation schemes, step 1, 2, CS, CK, all visa policies, all kind of observerships are being arranged over there. So 5 years later, in collaboration with one of the hospital where I did observership, Karthik Area Hospital, we actually started an observership program also, and we started shortlisting the CVs, and we actually 150 students we arranged observerships for. Then we also were doing hangouts, YouTube sessions twice or 3 times a year, in which we all the applicants from all over the world, actually from Pakistan mainly, they come online, and then we advise them the best recommendation. They ask questions, And so this is how it has been happening. And you can go there, you can subscribe there and find all kind of stuff. People were writing their own experiences, the best way to get or best numbers, scores. So this is how it's like an online interactive session, and I think it has helped many. More than 13,000 students are member, and actually that was a forum where I came across to meet AMO opportunities also.
And just out of curiosity, have you seen a lot of like residency match success from people who have been a part of the forum?
That is correct. So actually now we are shifting the leadership and mentors down to juniors. They are those juniors who you once used to be the applicants and they used to get guidance. Now they are actually attendings, and many applicants have given us feedback that they actually matched, they got help from the blogs, from the visa information, from the interview skills. Actually, we did many workshops where we arranged live sessions and we prepared applicants, especially for IMGs. Interview skill is actually a big step, and it is yet another difficult area where they need help. So because of the English language proficiency, because of the communication skill, and all those kind of behavioral kind of questions. So we mentored them, and so it is now many people kept on joining, and there are subspecialties now. There is a department that deals with the visa policies. There is a department that deals with one-to-one mentorship, actually, which it has been started as well. One-to-one mentorship where we assign an attending or a senior to a junior, and they remain in one-to-one communication until the students get matched. So this is how it has. I think we have got great feedback that the people are getting matched.
That's really great to hear. If you're okay with this, maybe after we log off, I will provide a link to the forum in our stories so that anybody who's interested and is tuning in can, apply to be a part of the forum or make a request if maybe that would help them.
Sure.
But obviously, I'm sure like some really hot topics in the forum lately have been the recent USMLE changes and the outcomes from the 2021 match. So I guess we all know that the match applications from this year were up, but it kind of turned out that the match rates were down. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe just some of the key takeaways from this year's match?
So since COVID hit the world, everything got affected, and USMLE, of course, also got affected. So what I have observed during this match, and after reviewing the match results, more people applied, as you said, 1,100 more applicants. 1,100 more applicants applied, and actually 13,300 to be exact. They were the IMGs, specifically I'm talking IMGs. They applied in this year match. But the percentage of match was decreased actually by 4%. Usually 61% was the match rate last year, and this year it was 56.7, so around about 57%. So this is actually a unique trend because every year there is a 1 or 2% increase in the match rate, but this year there was a dip. In
Right.
fact, people were talking that it is because 1,100 more students applied, but actually this is not true, because when 1,100 more applicants applied, there was an addition of 935 more slots as well. So 935 first year internship slots were added to the pool. So it is roughly the same proportion by which the applicants and the slots increased, but overall the match decreased, and for very obvious reasons, which I'm gonna go over in a while. So the biggest reason was the changes, the abrupt changes that happened during the 2020 year. So basically, CS was discontinued, and the lack of United States clinical experience. So United States clinical experience has been a great, it is one of the essentials which everyone has to have, at least 2 to 3 months of a hands-on experience. Because of the visa policies being affected, because of the COVID restriction by the hospitals, students did not get visas, students did not get US clinical experience, students did not do step 3. All these 3 things that actually affected the IMG match. I actually know students who never came to US until they are matched. Of course, they were lucky. They means they got the first visa after being matched, and like an H1 or J1 visa, but that number is very less. So when I actually talked to a couple of program directors also about all these abrupt changes, and what I got an impression although CS was discontinued, but still they were looking for the candidates or applicants who already had done CS, because to them, the most objective way to assess someone's skills, clinical and communication, was still CS. And they were even not aware of those abrupt changes which happened just like 26th of January before the rank order. So that's very important. It happened before the rank order. So they were still looking for the candidates who already had done CS. I think this thing also affected the IMGs, because 5,000 IMGs, 5,000, they applied through the ECFMG pathway track, means they were the students who did not have CS. So the second thing, step 3 was not done because prometric was closed, visas are not there. What that, in my view, in my last 8-year career counseling, I have observed that step 3 brings 4 or 5 more interviews as compared to the people who have not done step 3. Although it is mostly for an H1 visa, but actually a program directors, they like to have those candidates who already have done step 3, because then they would be more focused on internship and residency, not taking another exam, which is a hassle for the program directors. So I think these are the factors. And then political situation of the country also changed. Visas were more like they were not, everyone was not sure if it will be J1, H1. So they started recruiting more US citizen IMGs. And when I say that, the data actually supports. So out of all the IMGs who applied, 40% were US citizen and 60% were not US citizen. And of those who were US citizen, 40%, there was 59 to 60% match rate. So this match rate is actually more than the journal match rate, which was 57%. And out of those IMGs who were not US citizen, the match rate decreased from 57 journal match rate to 54%. What that means, it is very obvious way to say that applicants who had US citizen in the current circumstances of pandemic, the leadership change in the United States, actually they were preferred by the program director, and this is an obvious reason. So that's what I would say, that US clinical experience deficiency, visas in the gray zone, and step 3, lack of step 3. These are the 3-step things which affected and decreased the IMG match rate first time actually. It has never happened before. If you trend last few years, every year 1 or 2% rise in IMG match rate, except for the year 2020.
Right, right. And I just want to circle back to one thing you mentioned. You said that there have been some people that have matched and they maybe didn't have any US clinical experience, and that's super unique. And I would just like to point out that, for a lot of people, that can really be the factor. If you're deciding to go in without the US clinical experience, that could be something that factors into you not getting matched. So obviously that's not something that would be recommended. And with the pandemic, at AMO, we've tried to help people kind of overcome these travel restrictions by offering virtual clinical experiences as an alternative, which still look better than no US clinical experience. So if there's anybody out there who's like, I know that I can't get a visa appointment, but I want to match, I know I need that US clinical experience, you might decide that that is a good alternative to just, add to your resume, just something a little bit extra. But obviously the pandemic played a large role in just the outcomes. As things have kind of settled down and, some countries are starting to open up travel and visa restrictions more, and, things are just kind of starting to look a little brighter. Do you think that the outcomes for next year's match will look similar, or do you think that there'll be a upwards trend again in terms of IMG match rate?
I think it's hard to predict. The future match, especially when I say future 1 or 2 year match, may still be difficult. And when I say so, that there's a reason. So we know that two things happened. One, CS was discontinued, but unfortunately, it was coupled with another change which was already planned, and that was step 1 score being eliminated, and step 1 now will be scored as pass or fail. So when you combine these two changes, how this impact happens? So to be very exact, step 1 is a big tool for IMGs. they historically have been performing really very well. They score 250, 260. I know people scoring 274, 279 as well. Historically, they have been performing very well. There are reasons behind it. They don't do many clinical rotation while preparing for step one. They only focus on step one, and AMGs have a different way to take step one. So during the application process, step one scores really become very obvious if they are above 250, and that actually help IMGs to get matched. And now with the step one being pass fail, and that will be just taken as pass fail, means the 250 will be same as 225. So now the whole focus will be shifted towards CK exam and step 3 exam. Unfortunately, step 3 is a US based exam which would require you to be ECFMD certified, OET done, and then visa, you should have a visa. So what that means, it will be all the way at the end of your USMLE journey. The second thing, CK is the only way now to show that you are clinically accomplished, you are very brilliant, smart knowledge. So historically, IMGs have not been performing as great on CK as AMGs. It's more clinical, it's less basic sciences, less memory checking tool. So now they have to really build their resume overall. It's not just step 1 3 digit. It has to be a good CK. It has to be even a step 3 good score. Initially, when we were taking exams, step 3 was only pass fail. No one would care about the step 3 digits because it was only a visa exam, H1B visa you get qualified for. But now actually people would be looking at the step 3. There is a reason. CS has been eliminated. So CS used to test two things: a communication skill, a clinical skill. Your communication skill will be also tested by OET exam. But your clinical skill, they actually like to test on now clinical knowledge exam, which is CK, as well as step 3, because step 3 is a simulated exam where you deal with the patient on on a computer virtually. Now they would like to see how you deal with the patients virtually. So this is how it's going to impact. And then it is going to be more than just the step exam. It would need volunteer experience, research experience, and the United States clinical experience would gain more importance when there is no CS around. Because now the program director would like to see the clinical skills of a person based upon their LORs. So unfortunately, United States clinical experience is still not as much available as it used to be in past. And with the advent of vaccine, we are hoping. I was actually in communication with my own hospital and some other contacts, but still they are reluctant. Still they want to wait for the vaccine passport. They want to talk to the leadership if they would be allowing the IMGs or AMGs to rotate. So these factors are going to be in function, in operation for next 2 years at least. There's one more thing which I would like to highlight here, how it might be difficult, because I want the students to be prepared ahead of time and decide accordingly. I'm not discouraging at all, but I'm being very blunt and realistic. When people are going to apply next 2 year matches, new graduates who will be ECFMD certified by pathways, they would not be having CS exam, and they would not be having step 1 scored in 3 digits. There will still be a pool of candidates who will be having step 1 done because they have taken it in 2019, let's say 2020, and they have good 3 digit. And there will be still a pool of the candidates who will be still done with the CS because they took it before January 26, 2021. And now they're applying match. So now the program director is dealing with the two kind of pools. One pool has no 3 digit, no CS, and the other pool has both of these things. Psychologically, if I think I'm a program director, my inclination would be more towards the people who have CS done and who have 3 digit score, which are, if they are good 3 digit score. So these kind of factors, which of course are not according to the guidelines, which of course are very subjective, are still going to play a role. So at least for next 2 years, because I was asked on the forum a question, if we are taking step 3, would it be on our transcript as pass fail or 3 digit score? So it will still be on your transcript. It will be if you have taken the step 3 before 2021, it will be on the transcript as 3 digits. Same way, if you have done a CS before, even in the future, the CS is not gonna be considered. It will be part of your transcript because, as I mentioned, there will be a pool who will still be applying through CS pathway, not the 5 pathways of the ECFMG. So this is how I think next 2 year matches, given the lack of USCE, given these two pools now competing with each other, is going to be making it tough for the IMGs.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Somebody just asked, is it like, do you have to do the USMLE step one for clinical experiences in the US? Different providers have different rules, but at AMO, for current medical students, the USMLE step one is not required for hands-on or observership. But if you're a medical graduate and you would like a hands-on experience, you will have to do step one. Otherwise, you can do a virtual rotation or an observership. And really any type of clinical experience is good. So don't let that be a deterrent. Don't think that an observership doesn't have the same value, because it really can. And then I wanted to kind of circle back to the point that you just made about the, USMLE scores still being on the transcript. So actually the EC, or not the ECFMG, the USMLE board just announced yesterday that January 26th will be, of 2022 will be the day that all scores begin to go pass fail for the USMLE step one. So, if somebody is listening, and they're a medical graduate or a medical student and they're planning to take the USMLE kind of around or before that time, would you recommend that they take it before that change is made so that they can get a score? Or what would be your recommendation? Should they
That's
wait?
that's a very good question now. So there are two kind of applicants. One who are already they already have started taking preparing for step one exam. So in my experience, 7 to 8 months are required to score 250 plus in step one. If you really 6 hours a day and 6 to 7 months. If you think that you have, let's say you have started in April, we are in April and you're starting now, I would recommend do in a way that you can actually do it before January 2022 and try to score 3 digit. Now, there are also candidates who have, who are not sure that every candidate is different. They are like average candidates. They think that they are not getting good scores on NBME exam. I would not recommend those candidates to try this path, because then there is risk more than the benefit here. So, but the candidates who are already in the middle or are thinking to start as of today, they are still in the safe time zone where they can try a 3 digit exam, because it will be a part of their transcript and it's going to play a psychological role. I strongly believe that. So this is the take on the part one. There are certain candidates who actually take step two first and then they do step one later. So these candidates have to be careful. The reason when I say that 10%, 7 to 10% of the step 2 CK questions, they come from the curriculum of the step 1. So now they have not taken step 1 and they're directly going step 2 CK, and they will be competing in an era where CK score will be emphasized upon. It will be because only objective tools, since step 1 will not be there. So they have to really score 255, 260 plus. Historically, people who have taken step 2 CK first, they have to put extra effort to get to that mark. Because as I said, 7 to 10% of the questions, which make a big difference, they actually come from the curriculum of the step 1. If it is possible, they have not started yet, they can shift their sequence. That would be great, because still they can do a 3-digit step 1 before January, and then they go ahead for CK, and that will actually, the step 1 will accomplish the step 2, but step 2 does not accomplish the step 1 because of the difference in the curriculum. So that would be my take on changing the sequence and the timeline.
Okay, so you would recommend that if they feel confident that they can prepare in the amount of time before the switch gets made, that they go ahead and take the USMLE step 1?
They should go ahead, because
Yes.
we are still in a safe time zone. We are still in April and they have ample time.
Okay, and that kind of is in alignment with, you recently wrote a guest post for our blog. We posted it yesterday, and you provided kind of a brief overview of timeline recommendations for people planning to match 2024. And obviously, people can take a look at that and kind of change the timeline based on the preparation that they have or when they are planning to apply. But do you kind of want to provide an overview of the
Sure.
recommendations that you would give to somebody who's like, I want to match in 3 years?
Okay, so timeline is very important. We have to time it very timely. That was the blog I wrote. So people are thinking with the CS being discontinued, they are gaining some time. They are gaining 2 or 3 months time, and with the step one being pass fail, they are gaining 2 or 3 months time, which is not wrong actually. That is correct. So in the past, I used to recommend a rule of half. Let me mention that we used to recommend 8 months for step one. Rule of half means let's make it half, 4 to 5 months for step two CK. And then we further make it half, 2 months for CS. And then 2 months for step three. And then 1 to 2 months for CS. That was our timeline recommendation in the past. But now, with the CS being discontinued, you are actually gaining 2 months. You are not gonna spend 2 months in US in some hostel or some kind of guest house where you are preparing for CS. Same way, step one pass fail, 5 months should be enough, not 7, 8 months. But there is certain in addition also, you should not ignore that. OET has been introduced. So OET you should take at least 3 to 4 weeks. So that will use 1 month, and then CK and step three would increase. It will be more important to get good scores on CK and step three than before. So you have to spend 1.5 month extra on CK and 1.5 month extra on step three. So overall, in a nutshell, you are not saving time. So let me go over the timeline. The best time to start, if anyone is listening us and they want to know, I am just new, I want to start USMLE journey, the best month would be December. December, they should start step one, and it should take 4 to 5 months, means they should be done by April. Then they should go for CK, and CK should at least take 5 to 6 months. I would not say 4 months. I took in 4 months, but those were the days when it was not as important as it would now. So April to September, they should take steps to CK. And now, after taking step to CK, they have to take OET. OET is a part of ECFMD certification. You have to know that. So you have to take OET in order to apply for ECFMD certification and step three, because step three FSMB has not changed their prerequisites. In spite of all these abrupt changes, step three people, they still want us to be ECFMD certified, which means by pathways if you don't have CS. So in September or October, you take OET. In November, your OET results come back, and meanwhile, you start preparing for step three. You apply your visa. Visas can take as long as you can imagine. So let's say if it takes a 2 month period, the first time you come to United States for an IMG, it would be around February of the year in which you're going to apply match. So you come in February, you take your step three. Now you would use this opportunity. Now would use this opportunity to do some kind of clinical experience if you're lucky enough to get it. I'm not sure. I can't predict 2 years from now but I can assume with the vaccine in place, opportunities will be opening up. So you do 3 to 4 months, and that means you are already in August now. You are done with all the main things. Now you apply your match. So it has to be December. Before we used to say April, March, April. But now I actually have recommended planning 3 months ahead, because before the first visa where IMG would come to US was a B1, B2 visa obtained on the basis of CS exam. No CS means no visa. So that is actually a con side of CS being discontinued, and people are very happy that they are saving some money. They are exempt. An exam has been exempted, but in my view, actually it has more cons than the benefit, because now you have to wait until step three to get a visa, because there's no other way. An IMG who is no US citizen, who has no relatives here, who has no other support, can come here. So this is a general view of the timeline. I think you have already posted that blog. People can read it. If they have questions, we are happy to answer them.
Yep, yeah. And if you guys click the link that's in our profile bio and you scroll a little bit down, you'll see a residency timeline link, and you can just click that and it'll take you right to the post that Dr. Waqas Nawaz wrote. And then I just want to circle back to two things that you mentioned. You know, you said that there is the issue of getting clinical experience um, as an IMG. And I just want to reiterate the fact that at AMO, we do offer 250 clinical experiences, which IMGs and US citizen medical students and graduates are both eligible to apply for. We know that COVID is a very real concern for people, which is again why we allow virtual rotations for about 40 experiences. But if you're looking for an in-person rotation, we do offer many right now, hundreds of them that are actively accepting people. And for those rotations, we do guarantee that there is PPE. We've checked in with the administration to make sure that it's safe to rotate there and that they are open. So you can always feel comfortable applying to those opportunities. Another thing to point out is that we do offer visa support. So if you are planning to apply for a rotation and you're concerned about getting a visa to come here, once you apply and reserve your experience, we will offer you a B1 visa support letter, which you can then use to apply for the visa. Again, as mentioned, because of COVID, a lot of visa wait times have been extended. So based on when you're planning to apply for a rotation, you may consider looking at the visa wait times just to double check that you can get everything done in time. And then I guess just, do you have any other last tips for IMGs who are hoping to increase their chance of matching? Obviously, a big thing is planning and getting all the requirements and, doing the little extra things to make yourself a bit of a stronger candidate. But is there anything that they can do that you feel like is really, really attractive to residency programs?
I think whenever the match results come in March, everyone addresses the matched candidates, and then the pool which gets unmatched, it kind of gets a little desperate and ignored also. So I'm writing a blog actually about the unmatched people, but let me share the highlights of that. We did a survey in 2017 about the factors affecting the what are the factors which lead to unmatch, not the match, unmatch. So we had like more than 19, I think 99 and 98 entries, and we found that 62% of the time, the biggest factor is a low score, which is, and when I say low score, I mean a score less than 230 in either step 1 or CK. Then 20% of the times, there was mostly it was basically scores. 20% of the time there was an attempt in an exam. Attempt means CK failed or CS failed. CK failed was more adverse. And then 4% was US clinical experience, 3% was lack of step 3, 2% was old graduation. This is very important point. Old graduation thing is overrated. People think that I am 7 years old graduate, I am not going to apply. That is only a very, very minor factor. If you have been doing other things around, just do not consider this factor. As I mentioned, only 2% were more than 5 years graduate, and that was considered as a deficiency in their unmatched. And then 1% is the something we call bad luck. There's nothing like bad luck in USMLE. I personally believe, people can disagree, but when the people they say bad luck, there's always a factor which maybe they are not also aware of. And when I say so, interview skills, there is no objective way to calculate someone's interview skill, but actually these are the factors which actually are misquoted as bad luck. So when you have these percentages in your mind, you have to work accordingly. What that means, please focus on your deficiency. Discuss with the mentor, discuss with the senior. Do not just blame the luck. Find out a reason so that you can work on that, and then you come back stronger next year. If your scores are less than 230, I would strongly recommend to apply as backup other specialties like pathology, psychiatry, pediatrics, not because they are less important, but because there are less competitions over there. Less candidates apply there and you have more opportunity. If your scores are less than 215, I would strongly recommend you to think of backup outside US as well. Your local home country, your postgraduate training in your own country. If you're a US physician, a US citizen, you can think about physician assistant program. Recently, I posted about 5 states in the United States. They are actually giving physician assistant jobs to US citizens who are ECFMG certified. So what that means, they don't have to go through the physician assistant college. And those states are Nevada, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. And recently, there is about Arizona. So you can think of these tracks. So this is about the score. If you do not have US clinical experience, you really have to get that. As you mentioned, virtual is better than nothing. And I would say stay in touch with the hospitals, even if they are not offering, just keep yourself alive in their memory, because once they reopen, they should consider you. And do not ignore your local home country clinical experience. Try to follow or shadow the US physicians who are working in your home country, like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka. Just try to shadow them, get good letter of recommendation. Number four, if you have an attempt in a CK or a CS in the past, you can always you can always improve that thing. You can do an extra research, but you have to do something extra. When I say something extra, I mean extensive research, 1 year, extensive US clinical experience, at least 3 to 4 months extra than the people who do not have the attempt, and then you can be back in the competition. LORs are very important. Letter of recommendation, do not waive your letter of recommendation if you have any doubt that you may have an adverse word written against you, because the uploading a waived LOR is maybe actually more detrimental than beneficial. So just do not waive it, read it first, and if you think it's good enough, then upload it. If you are sure your mentors are going to give you good letters, then you can waive it. Why I'm mentioning that, we actually, while doing that survey, we realized 2% of the time people were actually, they themselves admitted that they had bad LORs, because during the programs actually they actually read their letters. So this is important to plan ahead of time, plan very timely, always go with the backups. I always recommend IMGs not to ignore house job. They have to do a house job. The reason is, 1 year ago, no one would have known that there will be something like 5 pathways. And one of the pathways was actually asking for the license, a PMDC license or a local medical body license, which required house job. House job also allows you to qualify for your local exams, your local postgraduate training. So you cannot burn the boards. So much is changing around and no one can actually anticipate or predict. So always have a backup. Always have a plan B, so that if plan A does not work, you should not be hopeless. And above all, keep your hopes alive. Match rate this year was 57. It is still above 50. It is still more than half of the IMGs they get matched. This is an answer to those people who keep spreading hopelessness back home, and that the US system is getting saturated. US postgraduate system is never going to get saturated because it has been designed in a way. So always there's 57 to 60% chance you would be matched. People who do not get matched, 30% of them actually reapply. That was also from that survey. 30% reapply, and once they reapply, another half of them, means 50% of them, they again match. So every time you apply next year, 10 to 15% probability of being matched decreases, but still half of them who reapply, they get matched. I know it means a lot of money, a lot of time, but you have to consider all these factors. We actually had written a blog about the financial aspects of USMLE as well. And we calculated that from day one, when you start doing step one, until you get match and first pay, there is a money involved, which is around 13,000, 10 to $13,000, 10 to 13,000. And it is all when you go in first attempt. If you have one attempt of being unmatched, every unmatched attempt adds $5,000. So this is all an overcome. People are more than welcome to come to the forum. They can read all the profiles. I will keep on sharing all different blogs with your company as well. And you guys are doing a great job. Actually, I'm very happy to connect with you. And I'm seeing that a lot of IMGs and AMGs are part of your forum. And all we are here to help you guys. And it's just for making things easier for you, which unfortunately in our times, we did not find that easy.
Yeah, you did mention that like things have just changed so much because with the internet, it's so much easier to have that accessibility of all the knowledge. And we're just really grateful that you were able to kind of come on here and like give us some of your time and share your knowledge, because I think, you know, a lot of people are very concerned about that. You know, what if I don't match? You know, there's the financial aspect, there's just the, you know, the motivation aspect of, you know, am I going to have a disappointment a second time? But I think you made a really good point that people do apply again a second time, and sometimes they are met with success. So you just have to really decide, you know, what is your goal? You know, do you want to pursue US residency, or are you okay, you know, returning home and practicing there? And for you, you know, for everybody, the answer to that is different. So it just kind of depends on how much you want it. And I think, you know, there are definitely ways that you can kind of get to where you want to be, and your forum definitely helps people with that. Let's see, I'm going to just check and see if there's any other questions that were kind of unanswered. I think you went over, you know, that people can overcome second attempts of the USMLE by doing extra research, which somebody had asked. And yes, we will definitely share the link to the blog again and to the forum so that you guys can get this information.
On that forum, once we put a USMLogram also. So 5 years ago, we made actually an objective graph that actually tells you to predict your chance of being matched. So in that graph, you put your scores, you put your US clinical experience. If you have an attempt or no attempt, you put those things, and then it gives you an estimate probability where you're gonna be in the red zone, green zone, yellow zone. So we made 3 zones. Green zone means more than 80% chance you will be matched. Then there was a yellow zone where you need something to improve, but if you do that something, you will be improved and you will be back in the game. And the red zone was, there were real red signs where you really have to put very like more than extra effort. So CK attempt or a CS attempt, we put that in yellow zone because it is something remediable. I have seen people, you should know that with the 2 CS attempts, you may be barred, but with the 1 CS attempt or one time CK attempt, you are not barred, and you actually can come back by doing research. This is actually one more thing which is a prone side of the CS being discontinued. The CS you can only attempt 2 times, and if you fail 2 times, you are barred. But with OET you can attempt as many times as possible. And very good part is that only that attempt will be notified to the ECFMG where you are actually passed. So it is your will. And then ECFMG will never know how many attempts you took to pass OET, because it's a third body exam. It's a Cambridge Box Hill Language Center. They do this exam, and they transcribe those results to ECFMG after you consent. So this is a good side of CS being discontinued. But again, these are remediable things, and you can always come back with extra research, with a publication, of course, with a publication, not without a publication, or with enormous US clinical experience, more than 6 months, or doing extra things like step 3 with extra scores, or getting a green card. Green card, as I mentioned, statistically also, even in this year match, the people who were green card or US national, they had a better chance to match.
And we just got one more question in. Somebody asked a question about, you know, what are their odds if they have a visa, no visa issues, if they have kind of relatively good USMLE scores, but they've been, you know, out of school for 10 years. I think that's a large concern. You know, there is a lot of data that says anybody who graduated more than 5 years ago and is applying to the residency match, like their chances of matching decrease significantly. What is your recommendation for older IMGs?
I may disagree with this observation. The reason is that it's not important when you graduated. It's more important what have you been doing since you graduated. So I've actually know people. I mentored few applicants, and one of them was actually a graduate of the 2011, and then one was 2009, and they all get matched. When I say so, if you have been doing something, I know people who have been doing MPH. If you are doing observership, if you are doing research project, especially for the females IMGs, this is a problem because they get married and they raise family, and then later on they want to come back. So I would say try this should not be a contraindication. In my personal experience, it's not a contraindication. If you have other things good, your scores are good, you have enormous experience, research, and with the pandemic around, I would say also try to improve your volunteer experience. Try to add something in your CV related to COVID. tell the program director you have been spreading awareness about COVID and COVID vaccine. You are debunking the myths. Show something, a post, a blog, or something like that, a video you made on a YouTube. I personally conducted interview for residency interviews, and there were candidates who were having these things in their profile, and actually that was very obvious. That was catching the attraction because that was all about COVID times. So if so, add these things. Do not think that 5 year or more is a contraindication. It may be a relative thing. It's not an absolute contraindication, and I would not just based upon this factor, I would not be discouraged, and I would not stop myself from applying.
That's great advice. I think that's even news to me. It just proves that like the experience and what you do with your time is can be shown on paper, and it's more important than, just the number. Somebody also asked, is there a big deal if you have, a lot of time between taking the step 1 and the step 2 CK? Does that have any impact on a residency application or not really?
No, not really. No one even will be able to find out that time gap on the transcript, that when was the step 1 done and when was it. They used to realize this difference between the scores. Actually, I was asked. I had 241. I have no problem sharing my score. I've already written on my forum, and then I had 230 score in step 2 CK. So I was asked this question, that how come your score decreased by 11 digits and then I told them the reason, because I was doing observerships, and all these exams I just took in 5 months, step 2 CK, CS, and step 3 all in 5 months, because I was
Wow.
missing the timeline. But that's why it is very important to time your timeline accordingly, so that you don't have to rush. I had to rush for some reason. So yeah, they would not be able to recognize or appreciate the difference of the time taken you have taken to do step 1, or a gap between step 1 and step 2.
Okay, and then also somebody just asked, if I'm a third year medical student and I just finished my exams for that year, when is a good time to take this step 1? And I
That's the,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead,
if you,
please.
I mean, I think you kind of went over this before where you said, you can take the step 1 right after you graduate, but, on the blog that you shared with us, you also said, if you can take it and you can balance it with your schoolwork while you're still in medical school, that could be an even better option. So, during, between graduation and their third year, when would you recommend that they take that step
So
1?
there was a blog. I think I have not that. I have written on my forum, but not on your forum. That says how to become the youngest MD. So in that blog, I have recommended for those who want to do MLE during being as undergraduate. So this is actually more easier now, because step 1 is no more 3 digit. So that was the most difficult exam in the whole USMLE journey. So I recommend that when you are a fourth year, like I don't think third year you need to do that. That's too early. Fourth year when you are, and then you start preparing for your step 1, it is going to only take 5 months, and you can also meanwhile, because you would have overcome all the basic sciences in your first 3 years of your medical school. So you should prepare step 1 during the fourth year, but do not take it before the fourth year exam, professional exam. Do your medical college professional exam, and then in the first month of your final year, you take step 1. Why it is important? Because many programs in the US, they like you to have step 1 before they give you electives. So once you have step 1 done in the, let's say, March of your final year of MBBS, you can, in the summer vacation, which comes in June, you can actually come to USA on a visa that you can obtain on the basis of an elective. I'm assuming things will be improved as far the pandemic is concerned. And you come here, you do your rotations, and then in your final year, your final year exam is all about clinical. So by using the same books for CK, you can actually take your final year exam very well. I have known so many people who did that. So you are using the USMLE books, and you are actually preparing for your medical school exam. You take that exam, and once you are done, you actually, then 1 month later, you take your CK. So now, before you are you are actually a graduate, you are done with the CK, step 1, you are done with the elective, you're done with the CK, and you also have a visa based upon elective, ideally speaking. Now you can apply ECFMG certification and apply for step 3 You go immediately after being graduate, you go to US for your step 3, you do more rotations. Now you will do as an observership because now you are a graduate, so elective will not be applicable. Now it will be observership. People should know the difference. And the same year you can apply match. So the year you graduate in, let's say, March 2022, the same year actually you can apply in September, and you will be doing your residency next year. So this is for those people who, and this is actually, I recommend that. The reason is now step 1 is only 5-month thing, and it's no more 3-digit score. You just need to pass it, and you can save 1 or 2 years, and you will be very fresh graduate, and you have ample time. God forbid if something unexpected happens, you get unmatched, you visa restriction, you still have ample time that would not make you old graduate.
And then somebody, we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but somebody asked, is foreign medical school transcripts, are they that important? And, is a house job that important? Like, is having good grades from your country and is having experience in your country, is that seen as beneficial? Like, should you go after the house job before applying for residency? What is your take on that?
So these are actually two questions. So grades in your medical school are not very important while applying for match. I know people who actually have very poor grades, and this thing was keeping them away from the MLE. But once consulted, they applied, and they were very successful. The reason is that there's so much in the profile that this thing sometimes gets ignored by the reader. So until you have some award like from the president, or you have like a gold medal or distinction, these things will be obvious. But if you do not have these things, they will not be counted. The second part, house job. So to me, house job is a plan B. As I said earlier, I'm an advocate of plan A, B, C, not just A. The reason, no one was expecting pandemic, and pathway 1 initially was having a condition that you have to have a license, a permanent license, where you can practice unsupervised, and no one can have that license without a house job. House job also gives you a chance to apply in other programs outside US. So let me share my experience. I graduated in 2010. I did a house job from 2010 to 2011, and meanwhile I was preparing for step 1. After doing 12 months of house job, I was eligible to apply for the part 1 FCPS, which is a postgraduate exam in Pakistan. That was a backup in case I don't get to US. Then I also applied Hamad Medical Residency Program in Qatar, Doha. That was a plan B. So plan C was FCPS, plan B was Qatar, and then plan A, of course, was USMLE. So just by doing, it's not only the plan ABC, it also gives you a letter of recommendation because you are doing clinical experience, especially with the US clinical experience being dead now, not getting easy hand on the US clinical experience. If you do house job, you get an opportunity to see the patients, follow the mentors, get the letters, and show to the program director that you have some kind of clinical acumen. Is now important, and it gives you a lot of cushion in case something unexpected happens, and it does not interfere with your timeline. As I said, you can do house job in minor subjects and you can still prepare, especially when step 1 is all about pass fail. You don't have to do 270 or 60. You can just be 225, but you have to pass it, and I think passing score is around 208 or 210. So with the house jobs, you can read, and you can just easily read to pass it.
Right. And to circle back kind of to the clinical experience, yes, in the past, people have said, well, can't I just reach out individually to a hospital or a university and request clinical experience and they might grant it to me? And yes, that's how you could do things before. But with COVID, with visa restrictions, with just those extra security and safety measures, that's almost near impossible. So that's also why, what we're doing at AMO by providing you with direct clinical experience where, you apply to a guaranteed seat, you reserve your seat, you come and rotate. It is really important. And a clinical experience provider like AMOpportunities is, one way where you can get that experience guaranteed and kind of increase your chances of matching. Somebody asked if you can do a hands-on rotation in a hospital with us after graduation. Yes, you can do hands-on after you've graduated, but in order to do so, you must have passed the USMLE Step 1. Otherwise, only an observership or virtual rotation is available to you. I think we kind of went through all of the questions that people had. Is there anything, any last minute advice you'd like to give them or share?
I would just say that never lose hope. I always write in the end of my blog and say so that believe in your skills and believe in Almighty. And because if you believe, you receive. The people who are new generations, I always believe they are smarter than their ancestors. So if we are here and if we score 230 and 240 and we are here and now we are assistant professor, we are doing radiology, gastroenterology, if we can do that, you can certainly do that. The reason being you are smarter than us, and that's the rule of evolution. That's the rule of genetic evolution. So believe in yourself and always plan, very organized. This is USMLE journey is a very long journey. It's a tiring journey. When you're doing step 1, only focus on step 1. Once you're done with step 1, then focus on step 2. Do not start seeing things from the starting point, because then your eyes would get fatigued and that would give you hopelessness. So rather than doing that, do one by one, and once you are done with the step, then look up and make it long, like a full timeline. But once you have started, do break your journey into small parts, and then one by one you will reach through all these steps, and you will reach where you see your seniors. But always remain in touch with a mentor, with other people, because that gives you a cushion, that gives you support. Because as I said, it's a long, tiring journey. But again, don't lose hope. There are a lot of backups. There are a lot of options within US, outside US, and you will do great. Believe in Almighty. If you believe, you receive.
Thank you so much for being with us today and taking time out of your busy schedule to kind of share your experience and your recommendations with everybody. I know that everybody really enjoyed it. We had a lot of questions. So, and thank you to all our viewers for taking time out of your day to join us. See you later.
Thank you. Have a very good day.